U.S. President Donald Trump hosts Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House today. And ABC News political analyst Steve Roberts is joining us from Washington this morning.
So, Steve, first question. As the New York Times put it, Zelensky is bringing backup to the White House, and that comes in the form of several European prime ministers and presidents. And they aren't just there to make sure President Trump backs Ukraine. They're there to make sure he's not getting too close with Russia, right?
Well, yes, and not too insulting to Zelensky. Remember the backstory here. Earlier this year, when Zelensky appeared in the Oval Office, Trump insulted him in front of TV cameras, said, you don't have any cards to play, diminishing his authority, diminishing his credibility. This was a real blow to Zelensky and to Ukraine. And so the European leaders agree with Zelensky that the first order of business is a ceasefire. You got to remember, over 15,000 civilians have been killed in Ukraine, over 100,000 troops. It's been, and Trump himself on the eve of the meeting with Putin said, we want to stop the slaughter. He agreed there should be a ceasefire. And then after a few hours with Putin, he totally reversed course. The New York Times said in the annals of Mr. Trump's erratic presidency, the Anchorage meeting with Mr. Putin now stands out as a reversal of historic proportions. And he accepted within minutes Putin's view of the war, which is no ceasefire, keep fighting, and go to some final peace agreement, which could take months and even years to negotiate while the killing continues. So the Europeans side with Zelensky and side with the viewpoint that a ceasefire as quickly as possible is essential to stop the killing. This is a position that Trump shared until he met with Putin and then totally changed his mind. So that's why the presence of the Europeans is so important.
And it is a reversal, right? Because there was a thought that B-2 bomber and that fighter jet flyer over in Alaska that seemed to take Vladimir Putin by surprise was maybe President Trump trying to rattle Putin a bit. And Trump has certainly taken a tougher line with Putin lately, and especially when you look at what he's trying to do with oil in India.
Up to a point. I mean, I don't think he was trying to rattle Putin. I think he was trying to flatter Putin. I think Putin loved the whole day in Anchorage. Let's remember, this is a man who's been an international pariah for 3 years. In many countries, he can't even go because the warrants are out for his arrest, given his indictment by the International Criminal Court as a war criminal. The United States doesn't belong to that court, so he was not subject to arrest in Alaska. But he's been a total outcast, a total pariah for years since he invaded Ukraine. And there's Trump welcoming him with a red carpet. He even applauded Putin as he arrived. Putin loved these photos, loved these videos. This was a return to international respectability that he's yearned for years. So I don't see this as rattling Putin. I think it was flattering Putin and supporting Putin and reinforcing his status on the world stage, which is exactly what Putin wanted out of that meeting.
Steve Roberts, with ABC News, is talking to us right now. He's the political analyst, and you mentioned a moment ago that the big blow up that Trump and Zelensky had earlier this year in the Oval Office. Are you hearing talks that perhaps Zelensky will take a different approach, a different attitude, even maybe show even a little more contrition that the U.S. is backing Ukraine in all this, and he just needs to appear a little more grateful, even if Trump pushes his buttons?
I think this is a fair point, and I think the answer is yes. That he understands, no matter how much he might disagree with Donald Trump, no matter how much he might despise Donald Trump is an extremely important figure, an extremely powerful figure, and has a lot to say about the future of Ukraine. So out of self-interest, Zelensky, I think, now understands he's got to treat Trump more gently and more respectfully. But I think he also understands that Trump, in many ways, is accurate when he says Zelensky doesn't hold a lot of cards. And that's why he's brought the backup. That's why he's got leaders from Western Europe coming with him, because he's not just one lone figure in military fatigues in the Oval Office today. It's a very different dynamic. It's a very different cast of characters in the Oval Office today. And they're backing up Zelensky's argument that the first order of business should be a ceasefire. But there's also a larger point here. You know, Trump has talked derisively of NATO, and he's talked derisively of this war. And Vance says, you know, no more foreign wars, no more involvement in Ukraine. We don't want to pay for it anymore. And this is an ancient trope, an ancient impulse in America. We've been blessed our whole history as a country with vast oceans that protect us from Asian and European wars. But the presidents of those European leaders signal that for all the ways in which Trump says we have to disengage from Europe, America is still a member of NATO. America is still pledged to defend countries on the front lines.
Yeah.
America still has a vast stake in what happens in Central Europe, no matter what Trump says.
Yeah, and of course, America is really the backbone of NATO in many, many ways. That is ABC News political analyst Steve Roberts.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.